Base. Basically, paint is called a nitro base, which essentially imparts color and provides the desired effect. The base has no gloss and it does not have weatherproof characteristics. The drying time between the layers to be applied is about 20 minutes. It is important to apply the paint at a temperature of approximately 20 degrees, and if it is below 10 degrees, the drying time will deteriorate significantly and the quality of the base will not turn out to be so high. Lacquer. It is made on acrylic basis. This second layer is the most important where the machine is painted with a metallic. The varnish acts as a protection for the painted body. There are two types of varnish used for painting machines in metallic, MS varnish, called soft. It should be applied in 3 layers, and its distinctive features include the ease of polishing. The disadvantages include lower cost effectiveness and longevity. Lac NS, a hard varnish version that can be applied in 1.5 layers, and easy first and a solid second. When staining, it almost leaves no streaks, is durable, but is difficult to polish. When the machine is painted in metallic, traditional materials and paint equipment are used: spray gun, primers, putties, etc. The preparatory process. Before you start painting the car with a metallic, you need to Zashpat Lavat and Primritovat body parts. When selecting the color of the putty, it is recommended to follow the color of the future paint. This is especially true of yellow and red flowers, since they are poorly concealed. All elements that are not color-cured should be removed or papered. Begin painting with the processing of internal parts of the machine. An important stage in the preparation of the machine for painting is the degreasing of the painted elements and their thorough blowing. The quality of this work will affect the final result. Low-quality degreasing will cause poor adhesion of the paint to the metal surface, and invisible fine dust particles will be very noticeable after completion of the work. The technology of auto-metallic staining with its own hands assumes the use of a special spray booth. First, the entire body of the machine is blown, especially hard-to-reach places where dust and debris accumulate. Next, degrease with anti-silicone fluid. It is applied to a clean cloth or napkin and thoroughly wiped all the details of the bodywork. Then wipe the body dry with a dry napkin and repeat the blowing. By the technology of painting the machine with a metallic after the preparatory work, it is necessary to start work quickly to reduce the risk of accidental contamination of surfaces. Do not touch fat-free parts with your hands, so as not to stain them. Apply the base layer. The application of the base layer is the next important stage of painting the car with metallic paint. This step is recommended to be carried out in strict accordance with the technology. In particular, you cannot save when choosing a solvent for enamel. It is better to choose solvents according to the recommendations of the manufacturers of enamels. The most sensitive to the effects of the solvent are metallic bright colors. Their unsuccessful choice leads to the fact that the metallic shavings of the paint lie unevenly and form stains. The next important point in choosing a solvent for enamel is the time of the year and the temperature that needs to be maintained in the spray booth. On this score, there are certain recommendations. At low temperatures, quick-drying solvents are used. The solvent or the painted parts must not be heated. The temperature of the solvent in the machine, as well as the temperature in the spray booth, must be the same. Applying auto enamel on the body. Apply enamel on the car body in several layers, the number of which depends on the color of the paint and the quality of the preparatory work. The scale of the automaton plays an important role. Typically, the machines are painted in 2 layers. By technology, the first layer is made more wet. Here a small number of spots and streaks are allowed. The main task at this stage is to hide the primer and give the painted surfaces a uniform appearance. When applying the first layer of metallic paint, be careful not to apply too much paint, otherwise there will be stains. Before further painting the car with a metallic one must allow the solvent to evaporate. According to the dyeing technology, depending on the temperature in the painting chamber, drying can take from 10 to 30 minutes. For more exact information, manufacturers point to the packaging. Do not speed up drying by blowing fresh layers of paint with air. Acceleration of the process does not allow the metal particles to settle correctly in the enamel layer, which causes spots. When the primer is visible under the first layer of enamel, the operation is repeated. After this, the primer usually completely covers the base. The last layer of the enamel is applied especially neatly and responsibly. since it will depend on the appearance of the car after painting. It is important to avoid the formation of spots and streaks. The paint should be diluted with a better solvent and sprayed more strongly, and it is recommended to apply it from a longer distance. If you keep the spray gun too far, the paint will dry out on the fly and form stains. This is also not good. When the last layer of paint is completely dry, proceed to the final stage of the work, applying a layer of varnish. By the technology of coloring auto in metallic by hand, you cannot dry the paint before applying a layer of varnish. It is highly recommended not to leave the painted machine without varnish for the night, as the drying of the enamel will adversely affect the adhesion of the varnish from the surface to be painted. Drawing of a varnish. The hands. The last stage of coloring an auto metallic, drawing of a varnish layer. To do this, varnish must be diluted with a solvent and hardener. For the first layer, you need to make a dry varnish, that is, use not 10% of the solvent. The exact percentage is indicated on the package, but half as much. The varnish will lie in a small grain. This is normal. This composition should be poured over the entire surface and leave to make the composition dry thoroughly. The drying speed of the lacquer layer depends on the ambient temperature and cannot be determined exactly. Touch the surface as follows. In an inconspicuous place, the varnish should not be smeared, but only slightly stick. The approximate drying time of the first layer can vary from 5 to 25 minutes, depending on the season. For the second layer, the necessary quantity of solvent is added to the lacquer according to the instructions and the surface is thoroughly covered. If you are painting the car yourself for the first time, practice on some unnecessary details. This will allow you to avoid the formation of streaks. Now you know how to paint auto metal by your hands in garage conditions. This is not difficult. But to get good results, use quality and time-tested materials that are recommended by experienced specialists.